Welcome back to the Anything Goes project. Today, I've got a review on a product that I've been carrying around for about 2 weeks. This is the Gerber Highbrow. So, like I said, I've been carrying this for 2 weeks, and we're going to jump right into the video, tell you what it is I like about this knife, tell you what it is I do not like about this knife, and we're going to disassemble it completely. So with that, let's jump right into it.
Searching for greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless, a sea of the aimless. I don't wanna be one of the nameless. I'ma wake up with the mindset that one day I'm gonna make it, and I don't think I'll be fine if I don't break my limitations. Don't try to stop me, I exist to write my own story. I'll make a decision if I want some peace or if I want the glory. Yeah, don't want a life that is complacent or possibly boring. I just want a life that is worth every day exploring.
Okay guys, so we're back, and the reason I want to review this knife is I really dig the knife. It's got a good aesthetic. It carries well in the pocket. The deep carry or the pocket clip is not exactly deep carry. You still have about a ½ inch that hangs out above the pocket, but it is very comfortable to carry, and it's just a really good knife altogether. And the blade holds an edge. Like I said, I've been carrying this for 2 weeks. I've sharpened it once, and it still has a razor edge on it. I've been using it to open and pry and do all kinds of stuff because, as you know, I beat the crap out of my knives. I like to cut a lock on it. So, I mean, it's got a good draw on it for getting it out for the spring-assisted release. And like I said, that lock right there, that holds that blade beautifully. It does not go anywhere. There's no blade wobble. But, okay, all that being said, what really drew me to this knife was that right there. That little safety right there. Well, since I started carrying it, you'll see I can engage it, and look, it doesn't engage anymore. When I first got the knife, this thing would drop all the way into the engage point, and it would hold, and you could pull on that all you wanted to. And it won't do that now. There's something wrong internally that is keeping or preventing this lock from engaging 100%. Is the lock necessary? No, but if it's on the knife, it needs to function correctly. All my other knives, like this one, it does not have the lock, and it works beautifully and it works fine without the little safety lock. Same with this, same with all my other knives. But it comes back to design and design flaws. If you put it on the knife for the intention of being a safety, well, I'm holding up on the button. As you can see right there, it kind of needs to work as a safety. So we're going to dive right into this. We're going to take this knife apart, and I'm going to see exactly why it quit working. So Gerber Gear, you might want to be watching this. Let's jump right into the disassembly. Okie dokie. So we have the mat in place. First thing I think we need to get off, and everything I've noticed on these, every single one of these little screws right here are T6s, or the Torx 6-bit. And we're just going to go ahead and take all these off. Got my little cup there to keep everything in place so we don't lose anything. And that was one of the things I didn't like about this clip. You could put it on either side. So that was a bonus on this. Okay, we got that off. Don't necessarily want to take all of that off yet. So let's start disassembling the scales. Ooh, that's a long screw right there. Put that in there. Make sure we're not going to lose that. And this is that little Tactics kit that I bought a while back. So let's take this one out. Oh, what's going on here? Is that screw stripped? It's not my bit. Alright, let's pause this because I think we got a little bit of a bit issue here. Okay, so it's a good thing I've got a few extra of these bits. And that one right there is still super tight from the factory. So I'm not even going to try to take that one out since I don't need it to get the knife apart. Okay, so this one right here. There we go. That's scale. I'll get this one undone. Alrighty, so here's what we got. I'll set this out of the way. Good amounts of lube in there. That's good. So what is causing this? Okay, that now it's going all the way forward. I think that spring right there is supposed to be mounted. Okay, see now it's locking. So this spring apparently is supposed to go somewhere. And I think it was catching up underneath that little lip there, because you can see how the mechanism works now. Which tells me, you can kind of see how that spring's catching right there. So that spring looks like that is part of, okay. What was that spring? Where did it go? I think the spring goes right there. That's exactly where that goes. Okay, so now that we've figured that out, so apparently that spring had come out of its little hole right there, and that's actually for the keep on the lock. I noticed that this lock was starting to get a little easier, but when I pulled the scale off, let me dump this screws in there, looks as if, yeah, there's nothing to prevent that little bitty, there's absolutely nothing in this cavity to prevent that spring from coming out again. So now that I've got it back in its location, you can see that the lock works and it tensions like it's supposed to against that spring, and now that goes into place, and notice that it doesn't work. But when you pull that out, I don't want to try to, boom, there we go, and that's the spring assist on it. So let me see, because of that way that spring is right there, my finger gets in the way. So, okay. I think that spring needs to fall behind there. And you got your lock, bring it back, and now you can lock it. And now you'll notice, now it doesn't work. So, from what I can gather from looking at this, Gerber, you guys, this cavity that is machined into your scale here, when it goes into place right here, yeah, it's a great idea for having it here to keep that spring, for the spring assist on the blade in location. However, there's nothing in here to prevent that little spring from popping out of this little hole and coming over into the safety catch, which is why that safety catch wasn't working anymore. And that's just purely mechanical. That's something that you guys need to figure out. Either have that little wire bent a little better, because now I'm going to go ahead and put this back on. Grab one of these. Oops, here we go. Can I get one of those screws out with my bare finger? Okay, I'm going to grab that and put this back in location. Take and twist that. Okay. Now get this scale back in place. Okay, so now we got the lock seems to be working correctly. Why is it not coming out now? Yeah. So, anywho, I think once I get the rest of the scales or the scale screws, bolts and stuff back in place, I can do some adjusting on it, and it'll help it. But right now, I think I've got a little bit too much tension on this one right here. Yeah, there we go. And now you'll see, now that lock works. So let me get this put all back together and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so I got the last of the screws put in. You can kind of see it's all put back together now. Everything is functioning. You notice I just tried to do it. That safety lock was in place and that's preventing me from doing it. So it's actually working now. So and it comes undone, and there you go. So as far as the Gerber Highbrow goes, I would recommend this knife. I would suggest a few design changes for Gerber to implement. One would be the machining of the inside of this scale. You've got the blueprints, you know where the spring is supposed to fall. You can actually machine a small divot rather than that big just open cavity that's inside of the scales. Bring that cavity down some to where it's as minimal as you can get it, to where it just conceals that spring, that spring, look at that southern drawl coming out in that spring, and there could be a little groove or a notch machined into this scale that actually holds that spring down inside of the hole. That would prevent it from coming out and tampering with this lock. I like the lock idea. It's a solid idea. The way it functions in the knife, it's good. Accidental misfire in your pocket opening up, that prevents it. However, that spring popped out and got up underneath it, and it wouldn't allow it to get into its lock position, which means I have to take everything apart. And in the process, I hate to say this, Gerber, y'all tighten the shit out of your screws, and I snapped off 2 T6s to get that out. And however, I did get it done, and like I said, small design change, nothing I can do on my end because it's already done to the scales. But like, let's say you ordered some custom scales for this, you'd want to take that into consideration. I'm not the first person who's had this issue. I've talked to about 4 different people that own a highbrow, and every one of them have complained about the same thing. For some reason, the lock quits functioning. If that spring's popping out and dropping into the lock channel, that's going to do it. So, worth it? It's a good knife. It is a really good knife. I kind of like this knife. It's very fidgety. It's, as far as closing it, it's not a one-handed close like some of the other knives because of that spring is assisting it. So you kind of have to use, but one-handed open, it works. As far as closing it one-handedly, I normally just take it, do it like that on my side. It's not like, let's say, this knife here, one-handed, and you can also close it one-handed. So, I mean, it's like, it just drops right down in there. This one, you try to do that, that spring bounces it back up. So you're kind of screwed at that point. Gerber Highbrow, would I suggest you buying it? I would suggest it. I think it's a really good knife. Some of the things I would like to see design-wise differently, though, those scales. Those are aluminum scales. Great. Aluminum withstands. However, you can see what happens to aluminum. It starts getting scuffed up. That's just from pocket carry. I've never dropped this knife. I've never dropped it on the ground. That's just literally from being in my pocket. The aluminum gets scuffed up. What would make this knife 100 times better, in my opinion? Throw some G10 scales on there or some micarta. So with that, guys, that's kind of my review on the Gerber Highbrow. Again, the blade steel, really good blade steel. It is a I forgot what stainless it is. It's like a C7 MOV, but it holds an edge. Like I said, I sharpened it once in the 2-3 weeks that I carried this, and it still shaves. I've cut all kinds of things with it, from tape, food packages. I've opened packages with it, food preparation, cutting paracord, you name it. I've probably had this blade in it, and as you can see from the blade's kind of scratched up from use. So yeah, it's seen some work and held up very well. So we can get that one design flaw fixed. I would 100% recommend this. Right now, it's kind of a 90%. If you're one of these people that can fix their own knives, that's used to getting into their knives and working on them, go for it. Maybe you can figure out a way to fix that. I've got some ideas already going through my head of ways that I can fix it on my end, but that's not for everybody. If you want to go a little more simpler, go with one of the Gerber paraframes or something like that. But the Gerber Highbrow, in my opinion, is a really good knife, and if I had to give it out of 5 stars, I'd give it a 4-star, and it's because of that spring design. But that lock is a really good idea. I do like that. So with that, we're out of here today. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment down below, especially if you own a Gerber Highbrow, and let me know if you've had any issues with the lock too. I've had several people contact me already that have told me they've had the exact same issues. One person almost had to break that to get it, because the spring got stuck behind it and they couldn't unengage it from their knife. So they actually physically had to break that because they weren't aware how to fix it. Yeah, if you're a Highbrow owner, drop me a comment and let me know what your experience is with that little lock. So with that, guys, we're out of here. Subscribe, comment, like, share the channel. We are at 241 subscribers as of today, 9 away from doing our giveaway. So with that, guys, I'm out of here. You have a wonderful day.